In the past week, I started and finished an anime series just off of whim. I didn't really plan to watch it, but it looked interesting, and it was a music anime, which I always enjoy, uh, called Takt.op Destiny. Uh, it was basically really just off of whim. I looked at the character design and I thought, oh wow, it looks good. And I saw which studio was doing it, and it was by Mappa and Madhouse. And for context, Mappa is the one who did Jujutsu Kaisen, and Madhouse is the one who did Mob Psycho 100. And if you don't know what these shows are, they're very highly considered a really, really good animation studio. And I so my hopes were high, and so I watched it. The basic background to the story is that one day in the future, I think it's in 2042, a meteorite crashes into Earth. Boom. But doesn't, kill the Earth. Instead, out from the meteorite come out these aliens called the D2s. I don't know what the D1s are, but they're just called D2s. And they hate man made music or man made sound, which is just music. Uh, and so they go around attacking cities and destroying the world. Bad news. And so another meteorite comes from space. Earth is very popular. Um, and out from that comes out these things called the music cons. And now the music cons um, don't like the D2s for some reason. And so their goal is to eliminate them. And they can use special powers, normally just like anime weapons that to fight the D2s, and they're really good at it compared to humans who use guns. Now, the power or the limit that the music cons can use their power is very limited if they are not tied to a conductor. And now, a conductor is normally in music someone who orchestrates an orchestra, but in this case, it's the term to a person who is tied to a musicant and sort of orders them around. And if they do that, the limits of musicants is greatly enhanced. Uh, and so with this background, the anime films the journey of this uh, young pianist, Tact, from, or in the Japanese pronunciation, Takuto, who is the son of a very famous performer and conductor and composer who unfortunately passed away due to a D2 attack. Now, Tact has a friend named, pretty sure it was Charlotte. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Charlotte, and her sister, older sister, just help around Tact because they kind of feel sorry because his dad died, but they also just kind of like him, like as a person, because Tact, all he does every day is play the piano. Great life, you moron. Now, the government, or like sort of the music association called Zagan, banned music a couple of years back because they, D2s that don't like music and they attack music. So it's like, it makes sense to ban it. But Tact is like, I don't give a shit. And so he just plays the piano every day. And Charlotte and her sister just kind of like, care for Tact. I don't know exactly why, they don't really explain it, but that's how the story goes. And now one day, uh, sort of troupe, performing troupe, comes to the town they live, and it's the only time where it's legally allowed to play music. And so the whole town is like, happy. They finally can, hear music again. The government like puts a lot of music cons around the town, so it's like safe and everything. But then, maybe things got a little too rowdy. A D2 attacks, and Charlotte is nearly killed along with Tact. Now, for some reason, Charlotte becomes a defective musicant. It is said that, even though musicant normally came out from the meteors, people who maybe like have the, I don't know, you have to explain it, people with the potential can like become musicants, and this was the case with Charlotte. But normally you need intensive training and to control your power, and this is why Charlotte is a defective. She is basically emotionless, and she can't control her powers well, and she is tied to Tact. And this whole journey is to a journey of Tact is him traveling across the country from somewhere in like around Arizona to New York, where the Zagan government sort of facility is, so they can fix Charlotte. And it's just this really long journey, defeating D2, meeting new characters to New York, and um, each episode was a mixture of like good storytelling with good animation. I wouldn't say each episode was great, but you never noticed any like drops in frames or like some sort of weird artistic drawing like scene, like I did with Vivi. uh Character design was beautiful. Like I could, say it's beautiful, especially the music cons. And voice acting, never heard any like bad problems with it. Just like a really highly productive, like really good show with a high production value, as expected from the studios Mappa and Madhouse. Now, if I had a problem with the show, which is probably going to be very few, is that the ending and the whole background isn't really explained that much. I'm pretty sure it's a 12 episode show. And in my opinion, I think it needed a lot more than that to fully establish the characters. And like I said, you don't really see the origins of how these characters even met at the start. And every character in the show that comes out could use like an episode or two of more character development to make, the viewers really feel more connection to each of the characters, and in sometimes death of the characters. Especially to near the end, the story kind of gets a lot convoluted. Like, they don't explain a lot of the stuff that's happening. It just sort of happens. Now, when you're watching it, you don't have any problems because you're just watching it and you see pretty pictures move. But when you come back and think about like me trying to organize what happened in the show, you kind of don't, you kind of come to a blank. Like, how do you explain that the leader of the organization, Zagan, you know, thrusts a piece of a meteorite into his hand and then suddenly destroyed the whole facility, and like betrayed his own, like, basically faith, and his entire motive is really really foggy. Every like and especially I felt like the ending was a bit rushed, and the storyboarders and like the writers and the directors had a vision on how they wanted to make the ending or conclude the show. But then it's really, you can't really see it. You know that they had some idea, but as a viewer you can't really tell. And that's, I think, the biggest like sort of mistake they made. It's really sad. Like it had a lot of potential for a really good ending, a really solid one. And to be fair, it didn't really have a bad ending either. It was just a bit disappointing. It could have been way better if each of the characters were more fleshed out, more, you could, more screen time just in general, and a bit more better explaining how their motives and how their minds work. Um, I'm pretty sure this is not going to get a season 2 or a remake. I'm pretty sure this is just the end, which is a bit sad to see it go. I really enjoyed the show, and the music was just phenomenal as expected from a music related show. I really enjoyed the performances. Um, I shouldn't say performances, the recordings done, and especially the opening. Opening was a banger. I am personally a big fan of Rule from Supercell and his works, and I wouldn't recommend it to people who don't like music anime. And the bar for music anime is, no, I would say low, anyways. And so if you do like that sort of genre, definitely go watch it. It's worthwhile. But if you're not, all you're gonna see is pretty people, pretty movement, convoluted story that doesn't make sense, which is a shame. Um, that's it for my review. Sorry if I'm bad at explaining. This was a really like hard show to talk about, especially near the end, and I haven't done this in a while. Maybe I'll get better. Peace.